The children in this village call me Dottie, though few of them are truly mine. They run past my old veranda, laughing, their voices carrying the kind of joy I have not felt in decades. Sometimes they stop, asking for stories, because that is all an old woman can give when her hands are too weak for work. I tell them fairy tales of kings and queens, of brave horses and clever sparrows. But those are not my real stories. My real story is buried deep inside, wrapped in grief and silence, because it is not a story for laughter, it is a story of love lost, of children scattered, of nights that stretched too long. I am 75 now. My hair, once thick and black, has turned white like cotton left too long in the sun. My hands are wrinkled maps of a life traveled too far. My knees ache when I walk, my eyes blur when I try to thread a needle, and my back bends as though it is tired of carrying memories. People look at me and see a grandmother, but before I was Dottie, I was a daughter, a wife, a mother, and a woman who once dreamed. Childhood. I was born in a time when girls were taught silence more than songs. My father was a farmer, his skin dark from the sun, his words sharp from poverty. My mother had 11 children, though half of them never lived long enough to walk. I was the third daughter, which meant my worth was measured by how quickly I could fetch water, knead dough, and obey. Still, I found small happinesses, swinging under the banyan tree, whispering secrets with my sisters, chasing fireflies on summer nights. We had no toys, no books, no riches. Our wealth was the sky above us and the earth beneath. And yet, I dreamed. I dreamed of learning to read, of going to school like the boys. But when I begged my father, he struck the thought away. What use is reading for a girl? You will read your husband's face, his moods, his hunger. That is enough. I swallowed my tears and said nothing. Girls who spoke too much were seen as curses. Marriage. At 16, my life was sealed. A proposal came from a family in another town. They were wealthier than us, and wealth was enough to erase the fact that the man, my future husband, was twice my age. My mother wept silently when she packed my clothes, but she told me, a girl must bend like a branch or she will break. On my wedding night, I prayed for kindness. I received duty. My husband, Bashir, was not cruel in the way fists are cruel, but he was cold. To him, I was not a partner, not a soul with dreams, I was a wife, a cook, a womb. I bore him 5 children, each birth carving away at my strength. Motherhood and sacrifice. I loved my children. Oh, how I loved them. When I held them in my arms, I felt that perhaps God had repaid me for the years of silence. I sang to them even when my throat ached, I worked for them even when my hands bled. I stitched their clothes from scraps, I starved myself so they could eat. I thought they would remember this love, that they would carry it as a lantern when I grew old. But children grow. They forget the nights you stayed awake with their fevers. They forget the sacrifices that kept them alive. My sons grew restless, wanting more than the small farm their father left. They moved to the city, chasing dreams of wealth. My daughters married and became strangers in other homes. And I, once the center of their world, became a shadow in the corner. Widowhood. When Bashir died, the world did not end. For me, it quietly shifted. The man who had ruled my life with silence was gone, but his absence was not freedom. It was emptiness. My sons argued over land, my daughters argued over inheritance, and no one argued over me. I became a guest in the house I had tended for decades. Now, I live mostly alone. The house groans with age, much like my bones. The walls are cracked, the roof leaks in the rain, and the courtyard is filled with weeds where children once played. On Eid, sometimes my children visit, bringing sweets I cannot chew and stories I cannot follow. They kiss my hand quickly, as if checking a duty off a list, and leave before sunset. The silence after they go feels heavier than before they came. Reflection. When I look back, I wonder, was my life mine at all? Or was it always lived for others, for my father, my husband, my children? I wonder what it would have felt like to choose love, to choose education, to choose freedom. But such words were never written for women like me. Now I am simply Dottie, the old woman with stories, the grandmother whose life is remembered only in fragments. But when I close my eyes at night, I do not dream of fairy tales. I dream of the girl under the banyan tree, chasing fireflies, still believing in something brighter than sorrow.